From the way you explained it, you made this place seem like it was massive. How do I get down from here? Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Minecraft The Journey with me, BugmanCX. This is the Let's Play series where we've been upgrading this survival world of Minecraft from the earliest possible development versions and we'll keep upgrading all the way through until eventually the modern day release. But right now, we're in Minecraft Beta 1.8 pre-release. In fact, we're in the leaked pre-release of Beta 1.8 that was discovered and made public a few days before the proper version of Beta 1.8 was due to come out. And because of that, there are some interesting bugs in this version that we've been exploring, and there are a few more that I want to continue exploring today. With Beta 1.8, it was a pretty massive update, as I've explained before, but with Beta 1.8 comes a whole bunch of new terrain, as well as new structures that are added to the game as well. And in this buggy leaked pre-release version, there are some interesting bugs to do with those structures that I want to explore today. One of which is with the Stronghold, but unfortunately with Strongholds, the problem is the Stronghold's only going to generate within a certain radius of world spawn, and unfortunately I've already generated so many chunks in this world that I think the chunks where the Stronghold's going to exist will have already been generated here. So we're going to have to do some trickery and some hacking and some other voodoo in order to make it possible for us to get a Stronghold into this world. But first, I suppose we should ask ourselves, what exactly is a Stronghold? On July the 1st, 2011, Jeb shared a screenshot of a new structure being added with the adventure update. This picture shows what looks like some kind of ancient ruin on the surface of the world, and looking closely we can see that it's made up of at least 3 new similar block types: a new stone brick block, a mossy variant of the stone brick, and a cracked version. I suppose these give it a kind of aged feel. If we look closer still, we can see what looks like some sort of prison bars or iron bars or something like that. It wasn't entirely clear what this was yet, but we'd later find out that it was going to be the Stronghold. Although this picture shows the Stronghold on the surface, when Beta 1.8 was eventually released, they changed this to be an underground structure instead. For now, the Stronghold was just going to be a basic structure. Jeb said in his tweet that Stronghold objectives will have to wait. And when asked, is there a way we can predict the Stronghold location via the seed? Jeb replied, no. The plan is to add some kind of Stronghold indicator once we've added the bosses. But none of that's going to be implemented in Beta 1.8, so I guess we'll have to find ours the hard way. But the location of the Stronghold is tied to the seed, and since there's only one per world in this version of the game, you'd have to be pretty lucky to find it. We also know that the Stronghold's going to generate within about 1,000 blocks of world spawn or thereabouts, but unfortunately in the journey all of those chunks already exist, so there's no way for us to find a Stronghold within our existing world. But I can create a new world based on this exact same seed and try and find the Stronghold in that world. Then hopefully we can find a way to bring it across to this one. So let's create a brand new world here. We're going to call it the Journey Seed because it will be a creative world and it will be based on the same world seed as the Journey. That's the seed right there. We have generate structures on, so villages, dungeons, etc. will all generate, and we can basically just go straight on in. Now the first thing you're going to see is that this is the Journey world seed, but it's based on the Beta 1.8 terrain generation, and it looks like world spawn is a swamp because these are the new trees that generate in swamps, and we'll come back to all of that in the future. But here we are in creative mode, and the reason I'm in creative mode is because we need to find the Stronghold. And now, if I was a new player and I generated this world randomly, sure, I would have to survive and build and mine and dig in order to find the Stronghold. But here in creative, we have a few liberties, right? We can fly around, we can interact with the world differently, and we can use it to help locate the Stronghold. Now, in modern versions of the game, I would be able to just do things like type /locate Stronghold, and it would tell me exactly where a Stronghold is. But unfortunately, none of that sort of thing exists in these versions. And in fact, the structure generation for Strongholds in Beta 1.8 leaked pre-release is quite different to what we even see in the next version, the official pre-release of Beta 1.8. In this version, there's only one Stronghold that generates per world. So we're going to have to find that. None of the tools out there available that are usually used to find strongholds will work in this version, so I'm going to have to employ some more sneaky methods. What I've effectively done is created a texture pack which removes all of the textures from within the game except for blocks like the stone brick, the mossy stone brick, and I think a couple of the others. And the reason for that is because those are the new blocks that are introduced with the Stronghold. So if I turn this on and go back into this world, you'll suddenly see that we can see all the way through the world because all of the blocks around me are completely missing. And this feels a little bit like using modern day spectator mode. Now the idea is that we can just fly around the world like this, and eventually I should be able to spot what looks like a stronghold structure. And just as a reminder, the reason that I've chosen to do this way is because in my current survival world, the chunks where the stronghold would already exist will already have been generated. So even if I did hunt around my own world and dig and mine and cave and explore, I would never find it anyway. So again, this is just one of those compromises that I have to make, and it's also one of the compromises I have to make for time, because it does take a lot of time to produce this series, and it wouldn't be any fun if we weren't able to explore these things together. So as I fly around the world, I can see a lot of lava and water because unfortunately I couldn't remove those textures from the game. I can also see some flowers and things like that because I decided to leave some textures like that on the surface to make it a little bit easier for me to get some sort of sense of where the terrain is so that I don't fly into a mountain, because this isn't really spectator mode, this is actually just creative mode, and I will collide with blocks if they happen to be there. But if I fly around like this, eventually I should see quite a large stronghold structure. But I won't, because in this version of the game, there's a bug which prevents the sprawl of the stronghold from generating. In fact, only the central staircase of the stronghold will generate in this version of the game. So how on earth am I supposed to spot something that small? And the reality is, I can't. But what we can do is use the re-uploaded version of this pre-release, which fixes this bug and makes the strongholds generate normally, because that way we can identify the entire structure and then use that as a guide to figure out where the coordinates are. So I'm going to temporarily switch to Minecraft Beta 1.8 pre-release re-upload, and then we can go stronghold hunting. Temporary upgrade complete, and what we'll do is we'll go into single player here where we'll get rid of the Journey seed world that we just created just to make sure everything's nice and fresh. Let's make a new one, the Journey seed. It needs to be creative, and we'll put the seed back in and off we go. Let's create a new world, and as you can see, it's exactly the same seed as before. We've got the swamp that we started in, and this is definitely the Journey World seed. So let me go back out to the main menu because I want to re-enable the transparent blocks texture pack and go back into this world here. All right, and if I get myself into the sky, now it's just a matter of flying around until I spot a recognizable structure that looks like it should be a stronghold. Now, if you know Minecraft structures, you will probably recognize this as a stronghold, and you'd be right. After a few hours of flying around the world, we have found it. And I want to say thank you to all of the members of my Discord who hung out with me while I did this. I did a little bit of a live stream internally there, and we flew around the world together trying to hunt down this stronghold. Now, as I said before, as you can see, this is a full-size stronghold. It's got a lot of areas, it's got a lot of little rooms and everything. But of course, that's because we're in the re-uploaded version of this pre-release. So now that we know the location, we can go back to the Beta 1.8 leaked pre-release version and then regenerate these chunks. And when we do, we should get ourselves a tiny little stronghold. Well, I hope you're keeping up because my brain's turning to mush over all of this, but we're now back in Minecraft Beta 1.8 pre-release, the leaked version. So if I go back into single player, what I've done with this world is I've deleted all of the region files and kept the main level.dat file, which means when we go back in, our player should be in exactly the same location it was when I quit the game before, but all of the chunks will need to be regenerated. So let's go into the world. And there we go. Now, as you can see down here, there's a lot of mine tracks because there's a mine shaft underneath us, but the main stronghold is gone. And that over there is in fact the stronghold in this version of the game, because when it generates only the central staircase and none of the rest of the stronghold. Let's go down there and have a little bit of a look. I can probably just go underwater here and then just, oh, there are some blocks in my way, so I can dig through those blocks. So if we break through here, we should be now inside of the stronghold, and we are. Let's get ourselves a block to plug that up. There we go. let's find a torch as well. As you can see, the texture pack's a bit broken because I've deleted all of these textures, including torches, it looks like. But there we go, we're inside and we can see into the world because there are no textures here on this, which is probably a stone block. Now, what's so interesting about this, and the whole reason I wanted to do this to begin with, is because all of these stone blocks you see around you here are the only part of the stronghold which generates in this version only. And since there's only one stronghold per world, it was really important that we find it so that we can preserve it. So the next question is, how are we going to get this stronghold into our Minecraft The Journey world? Well, now that we're inside of the stronghold staircase, I don't really need that texture pack anymore, so I've turned it off and things look a little bit more normal again. As you can see down here, there's a mine shaft underneath and it looks like this staircase intersects with that. But this is really it. This is the entirety of the stronghold, just this central staircase here. So how are we going to get this into our survival world for Minecraft The Journey? Well, we're going to have to take that step by step. First, let's have a look at our coordinates. So the location we're at is 963, level 50 on the Y, and then minus 73 on the Z. So I'm going to head back over to our regular survival world, and I'm going to go to these coordinates and see exactly where it is in our world. Oh no, boy! What happened to your face? Oh, this version is terrible for these texture bugs. Anyway, we are back here in our survival world of Minecraft The Journey, in the proper version as well, and F3. Let's have a look at where we are. So 718, 488 is approximately where we are, where the beta lake is, and the stronghold is located at 965 and minus 76. So minus 76 on the Z should be that way. Yep. So I think it's going to be over this way some way. So if I head down here and do a little bit of a trek and head off in this direction, we should find the location of the stronghold. And it doesn't look like it's going to be very far. And as you'll soon see, it really isn't. Just past the town hall, across this forest, over the little desert here we have behind this area, across the ocean a little way, and by the time we reach the other side, we'll have found ourselves our very own stronghold location. I was quite happy with how close this turned out to be because it's just really accessible. So the convenience is nice, but unfortunately, all of these chunks already exist. So if we want our buggy stronghold here in this world where it belongs, we're going to have to do a bit of work. So first we're going to have to get a little bit technical. If I bring up F3, I know what our coordinates are, 964 by minus 74. So what I want to do is figure out exactly which region file this chunk belongs to. Now there's a handy tool that was created by Dinnerbone, and it's very helpful for figuring out this kind of thing. What you can do is put in your coordinates, and so that's 964, Y coordinate 51, and Z coordinate was minus 74. And what this does is it tells you exactly which region file this chunk belongs to. There's other information that it includes here as well, but this is really the most important part. Now, how do we figure out exactly which chunk inside of that file we're standing in? Well, there is a way that we can do that too. I'm going to do this inside of the Journey seed world that we created, and what I'm going to do is just drop in this cooked pork chop right here inside of the staircase, because inside of the world's region files should be chunk information, and inside of that chunk information should be entity data, and there'll be some entity data about this pork chop here. So all we need to do is load up the region file that we found from Dinnerbone's tool and then search for a cooked pork chop. Here are the region files from our Journey seed world, and this is the file we're interested in here, r.1.-1 according to Dinnerbone's tool. And if I bring up NBT Explorer, you can see that inside of this region file are all of the chunks that are stored inside of this file. And if I just load one up and break it open here, we can see entities. There are 3 entities inside of this particular chunk, and this one here looks like it's a sheep. So what we need to do is find an ID of 320, which is the ID number for a cooked pork chop. So if I just do a quick search here and bring that down, we're looking for an ID of 320. And if I run that search, hopefully I'll find a chunk which contains a cooked pork chop. And there you go. I've just found it. So it looks like it's chunk 2827. So if I just collapse that, down here we have blocks. Now this is actually a big dump of data, and this contains all of the blocks that exist in that chunk. This is in hex view, and I can't read it, but I assure you all of the blocks that we're looking for are going to be in here. So what we want to do is just copy that. So we can go edit, copy, and of course it's on the clipboard. So now if we head back to here and go back to our main saves directory, go into the journey world, go into the region files. There are a lot more here because obviously I've been in this world a lot longer, and we want r.1.-1. It's this one here. Now if I load that one up, there we go. In here we want chunk 2827. So let's scroll down and find chunk 2827. It should be here somewhere. There it is. Okay. So in here is going to be the block data. So I just want to delete that. Now it's empty, and go here and paste the block data from the other region file. If I save that, next time I go into the journey world, that chunk should now be replaced with the chunk from the other world, and it should contain our miniaturized stronghold. So I'm excited to see how we went. Before we jump back in, I wanted to quickly address one thing. I really wanted to try and make Minecraft populate the world with the stronghold in this version, but unfortunately, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't. And that's why I decided to go for the copy and paste method. Here inside of this chunk data, you might see this here. It's a field called terrain populated, and it's currently set to 1. Now, this is what Minecraft uses to figure out whether or not it's done the dressing of a chunk. And that's a term that I use, but what it means is putting the trees in place and putting the flowers in place and doing everything else to dress up a chunk ready for presentation. If you set this to 0, what that technically means is that next time Minecraft loads that chunk, it should detect terrain populated as 0, and it should go through that process of dressing the chunk, putting trees, putting flowers, and putting other things. And that also includes structures. But even though I tried this, I couldn't make it work. The way that the terrain generation works when it comes to structures is that there's a central point of origin of the structure, which in this case is the stairwell that we've found in this chunk. And as you enter that chunk, if it discovers that it needs to place the structure there, it will then generate the structure, and it will generate all of the other aspects of the structure that spread out to all of the neighboring chunks as well. So theoretically, terrain populated 0 should have forced the game to put the stronghold back into that chunk, but no matter how hard I tried, it wouldn't. In addition to that, there's also this field at the top level of the level.dat file, map features. If it's set to 0, then that means that the world won't generate any structures like villages or dungeons or mine shafts. I've also set this to 1 and saved it, but unfortunately, again, it still isn't enough to cause the stronghold to generate. And so I've gone for the copy and paste approach. Back to survival mode we go, and oh, we're underwater. Okay, yes, it looks like this chunk's been reset because where we were before, that was a bit of an ocean, wasn't it? And having a look around, it definitely looks like this chunk is reset. Now, as I said before, if I had reset this entire area all around us would have been completely reset. So I felt like this was a good compromise for us to just control this chunk here and allow us to reset just one little area. So what I want to do now is excavate and dig it out so that we can see it in all of its glory. Well, doesn't this look all fancy? I'm really happy with the results here. You're able to see the entire Stronghold staircase in all of its glory. And of course, it's such a special thing to have in the world, and I'm really happy we got it because it's only available in this version, Minecraft Beta 1.8, the leaked pre-release version. But I'm going to have to dress up this area a little bit and make it so it's a little bit more accessible so that you can come down and inspect and view the staircase in all of its glory in the future. But that's something we'll have to do for another day because we've run out of time in this episode. So I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I will hope to see you in the next episode as well. Also, a special thank you to my patrons for supporting me. You're all amazing. Thank you so much. And if you would like to, there are links to that down in the description below. There are also links to my Discord if you want to join that and come and hang out. Oh, by the way, I think I've figured out how to get down. This has been BugmanCX. You've been watching Minecraft The Journey. Bye-bye.
Oh.